I need your help in order to help me solve the case of which sci-fi detective novel I should read next. Here are the 7 suspects. Up first, The Quantum Thief by Hannu Rajaniemi. Jean Leflambeau gets up in the morning and has to kill himself before his other self can kill him first. Just another day in the Dilemma prison. Jean is rescued and taken to the moving city of Mars, where time is a currency, memories are treasures, and a moon-turned singularity lights the night. Meanwhile, investigator Isidore Boutrolet, called in to investigate the murder of a chocolatier, finds himself on the trail of an arch-criminal, a man named Leflambeau. So I've heard a lot of great things about this book. I heard it described as Neuromancer meets Greg Egan, and that sounds awesome. I read my first Greg Egan book this year, Permutation City, and absolutely loved it. I know that this is some pretty hard sci-fi. I've heard some people say that the terminology is a little bit confusing and the book can be a bit hard to get into. So let me know if you've read this one, what your experience was with it. And I know it's a part of a trilogy, so let me know if the first book has a self-contained story or whether I need to commit to 3 books in order to get to the bottom of this sci-fi detective mystery. Up next, we have Marooned in Realtime by Vernor Vinge. Nobody knows why there are only 300 humans left alive on the Earth 50 million years from now. Opinion is fiercely divided on whether to settle in and plant the seed of mankind anew, or to continue using high-energy stasis fields in venturing into the future. When somebody is murdered, it's obvious someone has a secret he or she is willing to kill to preserve. It's up to 21st century detective Will Brierson, the only cop left in the world, to find the culprit, a diabolical fiend whose lust for power could cause the utter extinction of man. So I've read one book from Vernor Vinge, and that is A Fire Upon the Deep. And for me, the strength of that book was the sci-fi concepts. So I'm definitely interested in reading some more from Vinge, including A Deepness in the Sky, and Marooned in Realtime sounds kind of like a fun mystery with some interesting time travel elements as well. So let me know if you've read this book, how well it stacks up against other Vinge works, and how good it is as a sci-fi detective story. Third on the list, Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. Across 2 parallel narratives, Murakami draws readers into a mind-bending universe in which Lauren Bacall, Bob Dylan, a split-brain data processor, a deranged scientist, his shockingly undemure granddaughter, and various thugs, librarians, and subterranean monsters collide to dazzling effect. What emerges is a science fiction, detective story, and postmodern manifesto, all rolled into one rip-roaring novel. Murakami is an author that I am yet to try, but one that I'm definitely interested in reading. I know he's a prolific writer, and 1Q84 is definitely one of his books that I am interested in reading. I don't necessarily think of Murakami as a science fiction writer, but I don't think he necessarily adheres to any one genre. It sounds to me like this book includes elements of mystery, magical realism, fantasy, sci-fi, so I want your guys' opinions on whether this is a good place to start with Murakami, whether it's a good sci-fi detective story, and whether you think I'll get into his writing if I start with Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. So just before we get to the next book, how this video came about was I was reviewing some Hugo Award winners, and I mentioned that a couple of books had some detectives that I felt lacked a bit of personality, and I wanted to read some cool sci-fi detective stories. And you guys hit me up with some amazing recommendations, so I really appreciate you guys getting down in the comments and letting me know about some of these books. If you do want to get involved in the community, feel free to check out the link in the description to my Discord server, as well as my Patreon memberships, where you can learn the perks of becoming one of my robots, androids, or cyborgs, like Nima and a New Eden. Alright, for our 4th suspect, we have The Caves of Steel by Isaac Asimov. A millennium into the future, 2 advancements have altered the course of human history: the colonization of the galaxy and the creation of the positronic brain. Like most people left behind on an overpopulated Earth, New York City police detective Elijah Bailey had little love for either the arrogant spacers or their robotic companions. But when a prominent spacer is murdered under mysterious circumstances, Bailey is ordered to the outer worlds to help track down the killer. Then he learned they had assigned him a partner, a robot. I quite enjoyed the original Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov, so I definitely need to read more of his works. I'm thinking that I'm going to read I, Robot, and if I enjoy that, then I'll continue with his robot novels. I believe that the character of Elijah Bailey is in more than one of them, but they are self-contained stories. So let me know if that's true, and let me know how you think Robot compares to Foundation. At number 5, we have The Body Library by Jeff Noon. In a city dissolving into an infected sprawl of ideas, where words come to life and reality is contaminated by stories, John Nyquist wakes up in a room with a dead body. The dead man's impossible whispers plunge him into a murder investigation like no other. Clues point him deeper into an unfolding story as reality blurs between place and genre. Only one man can hope to put it all back together in some kind of order, enough that lives can be saved. That man is Nyquist, and he is lost. I think this book is probably the least well-known on the list, but the premise kind of piqued my interest, hooked me in a little bit. I like kind of simple, concept-driven stories where we take a character, put them in a room, make them solve a bunch of puzzles. I always like that kind of storytelling, and this one seems to have some interesting elements as well to do with some meta and literary elements which make this book sound a bit weird in kind of a cool way. So let me know if anybody has read this one, whether you think it should be a sci-fi detective story that I need to pick up. With our second last book on the list, we have Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. Dirk Gently, self-styled private investigator, sets out to prove the fundamental interconnectedness of all things by solving a mysterious murder, assisting a mysterious professor, unraveling a mysterious mystery, and eating a lot of pizza. Not to mention saving the entire human race from extinction along the way, at no extra charge. A thumping good detective ghost horror whodunit time travel romantic musical comedy epic. This sounds like a very fun, very tongue-in-cheek adventure from Douglas Adams, an author that I haven't read yet, but I did recently purchase The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm finally going to be reading that very soon, and I'm sure I'm gonna like it, and if I like Adams' style, then I think after I read some of the Hitchhiker's books, I will try Dirk Gently. So let me know if you enjoyed this one, how it compares to Hitchhiker's, and where it ranks for you in terms of sci-fi detective stories. And for our final suspect, we have The Last Policeman by Ben H. Winters. What's the point in solving murders if we're all going to die soon anyway? Detective Hank Pallas has faced this question ever since Asteroid 2011 GV1 hovered into view. There's no chance left, no hope. Just 6 precious months until impact. The economy spirals downward, churches and synagogues are packed. People all over the world are walking off the job, but not Hank Pallas. He's investigating a suspicious death, and Pallas is the only cop who cares. So this one sounds like it has an interesting setting, a pre-apocalyptic setting where it looks like everybody is going to die soon from an asteroid. So kind of what is the purpose of going on? Well, maybe this case will reveal something interesting. Maybe just for Hank Pallas the detective, or maybe something wider for humanity. Who knows? I'm going to have to read and find out. I believe this is part of a trilogy, but I think the first one is a relatively self-contained mystery. I don't know. So if you have read the books, let me know whether I can pick this one up and dig into a good mystery. It sounds pretty interesting. I want to hear your guys' feedback on it. So there are 7 sci-fi detective books, which I think is a bit of a fun genre mashup. You get some of the cool tropes and elements from detective and mystery stories, and then you get to combine that with the time periods, the settings, the technology and concepts that we get from science fiction. So let me know your thoughts on if you've read any of those books. If 1 or 2 of them get some particularly positive feedback, then I'll definitely throw those on the TBR for 2023. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe. It's free, and you can find more sci-fi content over here.